Okay, friends, fellow subscribers, and all you YouTubers out there, this video is basically a theory that over the last few months I have come to believe that could be true. I believe our sun and other stars that are moving past our sun have more to do with earthquakes than what people realise. As you can see here, we have a sun in the on our sun on the left-hand side, but a star is coming across in the field. Now that little star with the line going up and down, that is Venus. The one coming into shot now with the line coming down is Mercury. So therefore, and that's as you can see there, that's the setup of the stereo behind cameras, and so that star that you see that is just about to pass between Venus and Mercury is foreign. Now notice the solar flare that is coming from the star. Now that can only happen from a star. Only stars have solar flares, and only stars have solar bursts, exactly like what's just happening there now with that star as it's coming through. Now, right about now, a solid burst of what I call a solar coronal mass dump has just happened, which you will slowly see appear in a few moments. It's basically what is left behind as our star pushes itself through space. And yes, I mean pushes itself through space. I'll show you more examples of other stars moving, which are all deep space Hubble images. And you can just start to see that little round ring on the left bottom. You'll notice it gets a lot clearer every now and then, but that is what I call a coronal mass dump. Now that coronal mass dump happens after a sun moves, and basically it's what's left behind after the push of the star. And there's two short bursts. Now you'll start to see the second one there. Now that initial shot, when that first started, was when the first Japan earthquake happened prior in 2000 on the 20. I think it was on the 22nd of December, the first Japan earthquake, and Japan was recovering from that earthquake when the second one hit. Now notice as we're going along, you'll notice that it's still happening as it's slowly being pushed out, but that star is getting closer to our sun, and notice the reaction our sun is having to that star getting close to it. Now, in other words, that second star, which is actually also being picked up by a lot of handheld video cameras. Now you'll notice a lot of second sun videos out there by all the YouTubers. Now that's a good shot of the coronal mass. You can actually physically see it. You'll see in a second. I'm going to show you some shots of the coronal mass, what it looks like around a star, and what they look like after a star has actually dumped them. Now that's a coronal mass around one of the Pleiadian stars. That's just a coronal mass dump. What's left of it. That's two stars dropping coronal masses. That's a coronal mass dump. And as you can see a better shot of the coronal mass there. Now, and it has been physically left behind as our sun has propelled itself. And it happens quite often. Now, as the star tends to get closer to the sun, you'll notice a lot of violent reactions happening between both that star and our sun, and you can start to see it happening now. You just saw those violent flashes at our sun. So that star is affecting our sun, hence affecting the magnetic fields that our sun puts out, and hence I feel reacts with our Earth. And those solar mass, coronal mass dumps can give us an idea of when a danger period for earthquakes, because right through this whole time there are minor earthquakes all over. I could put them all in on the screen, but you would then not see the coronal mass. Now, round about this time, as the sun, that star gets very close to the thing, we have the New Zealand earthquake. Now, I believe there was also a solar mass dump, a coronal mass dump coming in this direction because there was a brightness and that black flash. I believe that was a coronal mass dump happening as well, but in this direction. Now notice that flare is coming from that other star. Now again, we're getting fairly close up to the time when the Japan earthquake. Now notice that the solar flares, all the dramas with our star happening now because of that other star being close to it. Look at the violent reactions prior to the earthquake happening. Now, bang, this is the other Japan earthquake just happened in that period of time as the star's going around. Now, you'll see a coronal mass dump on the other side of our star when we see the stereo headshots. Now, basically, I believe that if we can predict these coronal mass dumps happening with our star, I believe that we can start to predict earthquakes, because I believe this has a lot to do with it. Because I'm starting to find correlations with these coronal mass dumps to the actual earthquakes, and I'm going back through. It's going to take some time to actually go and find all these coronal mass dumps, but hopefully other researchers will start looking into this as well. I call this moving star and tectonic theory. Now, basically, you'll see those two stars that you're seeing there are not supposed to be there. They are just stars moving around. Now, notice how that top one is getting close to us, where the other one is just going away. Now, in a second, you'll start to see it actually change direction and shoot off in the other direction for some unknown reason. 1 minute it's coming towards us, next minute it's now, okay, here's the change there. Notice how it's actually going backwards. 1 minute it was coming towards us, next minute it's moving away. Or is it that we're moving forward from that coronal mass dump that happened when we started shifting? So hence we're moving away from that star is the actual real excuse. And you can notice it just disappearing. So that means we're propelling ourselves through space, or our star is, and we're being dragged along, and that's what's causing all these earthquakes. Now, the thing is, it's sort of, you've got to look at, okay, something has just pretty major has just happened then. So that says that, yes, we are propelling ourselves, because we've just seen a star that was actually going forward all of a sudden disappear fairly fast behind us. So hence we have just propelled ourselves away from that star. And it also explains the so-called expanding universe theory that never matches up when you try and find other stars. This is the real explanation, because our stars propel themselves through the universe. And because they are so far away that they're not as noticeable straight away, because it basically, sometimes there are stars there that basically aren't supposed to be there, and stars there that are supposed to be there, but you find them off track. So sometimes our star might not move. We don't know how often our star moves, but luckily, here it is. It's been caught on camera, and it's been caught by NASA cameras. Now, basically, you notice those flashes happening there. Now, again, I believe that was a coronal mass dump coming this way. Now, you'll notice another star just about to appear into screen shot, and basically we're coming up to around the period of time of the New Zealand earthquake, and you'll notice to start to see, now notice how that other star is coming towards us. You'll notice a bit more violent reactions are starting to happen with our star, hence you just saw a solar storm. And basically, as the New Zealand earthquake comes into fruition, you notice our sun is getting more violent as that's the extra star is getting close to us. And you've got to remember there is another star coming the opposite direction from the other side. Oh, sorry, that is, that is the star that's coming towards us. That star there, because working out, yes, that is definitely the star. Now, you'll notice the violent reactions, and we just had the Christchurch earthquake. Now, we're coming up into the period of March. Now, you'll start to see more reactions with our star, and you'll see that where is it? You can see a couple of stars in the background there. Now, there it is. There's that other star that I was talking about. And you can start to see this one here sorry, that last one was actually, must have been Mercury. This is that same star that caused the violent reactions with our sun. And hence that was when the coronal mass was just dumped. Now you can just start to see it appearing on the right hand side. You can see the coronal mass dump of the Japan earthquake. And yeah, so basically our sun drops coronal masses, and yeah, sorry, that is a different star because it's a different period of time. I'm confusing myself. Now there is also a rogue star which is also about to appear on screen. The longest shot is just a single frame shot that I've thrown in, and then it disappears and comes back again. That's the actual how quickly, but that's a longer expanded shot of a rogue star that's just gone through our planet and solar system, sorry, as our coronal mass just disappears. So what we've done, we've propelled ourselves. Notice the solar flare coming from it. That proves that that is a star, that is not a planet. Now there's the coronal mass just disappearing out of whack. Now basically we're coming along, and what you're going to see in a minute are photos of deep space images from the Hubble telescope. Now these are what are placed onto Google Sky. Now they're all deep space images put together. Now those deep space images are of stars moving along. Now you'll notice sometimes there's an armature difference, like with that one. That is because there is a focused period of time, and hence the star may move a little bit, and you'll get those different periods where there is a armature shot in a different direction. That's because of the length of the exposure. Now you will see there that the star has moved a slight bit. Again, the star is propelling itself. This is what our star has just done. The same thing. It has just propelled itself. And basically you're seeing the initial propulsion push. That's what our sun did. What gets left behind is the coronal mass after it. And basically our suns work together and move together. As you will look in the second last video, you'll see that suns work in conjunction with each other, and yes, they do propel themselves, folks. That is a perfect picture of a star propelling itself. They are not comets. These are stars, folks. They are nothing else. And yes, our stars propel themselves at high velocity, as you've just seen in the video that I put past. So you imagine it, we're a planet attached to the sun's gravity field. Our star decides to propel itself, hence our planet gets stuck in magnificently increased forces of magnetism. Hence it would shake our planet up, hence cause earthquakes. You imagine a planet being stuck into a solar system with a star that propels itself like that. Yeah, it's just basically says there's something going on in space that we don't get told, and hence we basically get pulled apart because of these motions. Now, as you can see by that photo, you can see that jet perfectly coming out of the star. That is a star creating a sundog, which we get told are optical illusions, and the optical illusions of sundogs are basically pure reflections of the actual sundog being created. They are physical objects, and that is a sundog left behind by a star. That's a star moving and creating a sundog at the same time. That's a star moving, and you can see the propulsion coming from the star itself. A star moving along, and you can see the double coronal mass that it's just left behind. You can see the coronal mass being left behind as it's propelling itself. And these are all NASA images, folks. You can get the directions from this and go to Google Sky and have a look for yourself and see them for yourself. They are not doctored images. They are actually happening. If you go and look at my moving sun videos, you'll see an actual real-time one of happening on the Soho image. You'll see now that one, it was one where a star was moving itself around into a change of direction. That is a star propelling itself, and you can see the jet propulsion. That's a star that has propelled itself and has moved away from the jet, which ends up being the coronal mass dump. That's a star starting its coronal mass dump. That's a star turning itself. So basically, you're seeing different things that are happening out in space that are real, and you get told that these things don't exist. But here's the pure evidence, folks, and you can go and see it on Google Sky for yourselves. You can go to Soho and look at any of those dates on any of those videos and see the evidence. All I've done is correlated a large amount of those same videos to put the coronal mass into a movie for you. So there you go, folks. Our sun moves, and I believe is responsible for all the earthquakes. It's Anthony Avery signing off once again with the truth. And only star have solar bursts, exactly like what's just happening there now with that star as it's coming through. Now, right about now, a solid burst of what I call a solar coronal mass dump has just happened, which you will slowly see appear in a few moments. It's basically what is left behind as our star pushes itself through space. And yes, I mean pushes itself through space. I'll show you more examples of other stars moving. Okay, friends, fellow subscribers, and all you YouTubers out there, this video is basically a theory that over the last few months I have come to believe that could be true. I believe our sun and other stars that are moving past our sun have more to do with earthquakes than what people realise. As you can see here, we have a sun in the on our sun on the left-hand side, but a star is coming across in the field. Now that little star with the line going up and down, that is Venus. The one coming into shot now with the line coming down is Mercury. So therefore, and that's as you can see there, that's the setup of the stereo behind cameras, and so that star that you see that is just about to pass between Venus and Mercury is foreign. Now notice the solar flare that is coming from the star. Now that can only happen from a star. Only stars have solar flares, which are all deep space Hubble images. And you can just start to see that little round ring on the left bottom. You'll notice it gets a lot clearer every now and then, but that is what I call a coronal mass dump. Now that coronal mass dump happens after a sun moves, and basically it's what's left behind after the push of the star. And there's two short bursts. Now you'll start to see the second one there. Now that initial shot, when that first started, was when the first Japan earthquake happened prior in 2000 on the 20. I think it was on the 22nd of December. The first Japan earthquake, and Japan was recovering from that earthquake when the second one hit. Now, notice as we're going along, you'll notice that it's still happening as it's slowly being pushed out, but that star is getting closer to our sun, and notice the reaction our sun is having to that star getting close to it. Now, in other words,